Hello and welcome to Daily Records Hotline Live. I'm Angus Hyde.
Who are you, Angus Hyde?
Who am I? I'm the stand-in. The super sub, as you can see. Joined by Keith Jackson, of course, Andy Newport at Ibrox from today, and of course our stalwart, Craig Swan. Guys, how we doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Very well, very well. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here in a very quiet Ibrox now, not so much the earlier. Of course, the main talk from today, Govan, 3 points taken away by Rangers. Andy, tell us all about it.
Oh, I mean, fairly edgy performance, you would say, from Rangers in the end there. Obviously, get the goal sort of half an hour in from Tom Lawrence. It was a peach, to be honest. A cracking sort of right foot strike. He's come out off the left-hand side and swept one into the top corner. But from there, they never really kicked on. They get a bit lucky just in the stroke of half-time where a penalty save from Jack Butland after John Souttar was penalised for a handball. Just spoke to Luke Clement in the post-match press conference. He wasn't happy about it. He thinks that there wasn't much that John Souttar could do about it. I'm not so sure that that's going to wash with referees this season. I think if you get your arm, your elbow up above your head, stopping a goal-bound shot, I think you're always going to sort of fall, get yourself into bother with referees in that one. But obviously that was a big let-off for Rangers in the second half. You really expect them to kick on. They've been playing sort of, been signs of optimism for the last few weeks. Obviously that big result in Malmo on Thursday, but they just never really sort of, get out of second gear really, and it was a pretty drab performance. And in the end, they were sort of clinging on a wee bit as Hibs sort of put a string of balls into the box. They got lucky when Marcus Gale had Dwight Gale had a header that just went wide. So in the end, there was relief all round here when the final whistle went. The 900 Hibs fans were over in that corner behind me. Can be pleased with their team's performance. They battled well, but again, it comes down to big chances. You need to take them. That's what obviously David Gray was just saying in his press conference there, that so we get a chance, penalty. You come here, you have to take those kind of opportunities. So I can imagine that both sort of sets of supporters are going away with a wee bit of frustration. Rangers fans just not really getting the performance they were expecting, but Hibs fans thinking that perhaps they should have probably taken something away from the game.
Andy, I think the word today for Rangers is unconvincing. I thought the performance was unconvincing. I think that was a bit of a disappointment given the standards that they achieved in Malmo the other night. And Clement after the game was unconvincing. The stuff about the penalty kick, it was a stonewall penalty kick. You're absolutely spot on. He's blocked it with his arm. It's heading towards the net. It's a shot on goal. It has to be a penalty kick. So I didn't really get that. And he was also coming away with stuff about, the players didn't have any sleep. And I don't know. Sometimes you wonder with Philip Clement if it's one step forward, two steps back. That seemed a little bit today. You would have thought they would have been going into that game in the crest of a wave after the standard that they achieved in Sweden. So did that kind of feed into it a little bit today, that the fans were turning up thinking they might have turned a corner, and yet what they got was sort of more of the same?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think we were expecting to see a better level of performance. There's been small signs, not huge signs, these last three games, and I think that's the thing you need to sort of take into account, is that this is a team that's still a million miles away from being able to compete with Celtic. I mean, as you saw last night in Perth, Celtic are operating on a completely different level from Rangers right now. So, but I think the fans would have been turning up expecting to see a better level of performance, something to build on the results. I mean, I think the encouraging thing is, it's another win. It's another clean sheet, 4 in a row now since that game at Parkhead. But as you say, I think the thing that stood out for me was just the fact that he made 4 changes, and I'm not sure that Clement has got a squad that's deep enough to be making 4 changes and hoping that the performance level will stay the same. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 could have got away with it, but making 4, I think that just maybe disrupted the rhythm a little bit, especially McDiarmid. I think he's becoming so crucial to this team. It's not that he's a standout every week, but he plugs so many gaps. I think you saw the other night just the amount of times he would win possession, win intercepts, win tackles. I think you take that out of the team, I think it sometimes allows opposition to get a foothold in the game that they wouldn't normally have if he was playing. So I kind of felt that was the case today. Obviously, you've seen Nico Raskin, it's his first start since the Scottish Cup final back in May. And, last 45 minutes and didn't really convince But then again, the things that I think we'll take encouragement from, again, Jack Butland, who's been criticised at times this season. There's people were sort of surmising that there's an issue for his down his left-hand side, but he comes up with a really key save from Clone just before the Hibs penalty decision, and then obviously follows it up with a crucial penalty save. So that'll be encouraging for them. Yefty again looked decent. John Suter again continues to look solid. But I think further forward, I think there's still a concern just over the lack of fluency and just clinicalness in attack. Just the amount of times that they get themselves in promising position, it just all breaks down just through carelessness and just not having the quality that really is going to be required if they're going to take on Celtic. So for me, I think they can be pleased that they've got a result, but I think we'll know that this is still a team that's a long, long way off being able to mount a proper title charge.
Andy, just an observation, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, or you're closer to it in there, but sometimes you feel as if Clement's got a problem with specific characters, and we've seen it. What's happened with Todd Cantwell, Hadji's been frozen out of the thing. Whether or not that's anything to do with personalities is a different thing. But I'm wondering, what do you think the thinking is behind Dujon Sterling just now, who became like a key, even though he didn't have a single position nailed down, he was a key guy. He was a guy that you thought he'll definitely try to get him into the team. And in some position or other, he seems to have gone right down the pecking order. I'm not sure how keen he is about Raskin either. He's given him his chance today and then hooked him at half-time. Raskin, you would have thought, would have been further down the kind of potential list of starters than Sterling towards the end of last season. Do you pick anything up? Is Sterling the latest one? Maybe having an issue?
I don't know, because in terms of personality clash, I'm not so sure, because we've seen Clement speak so warmly of him, and I don't see Dujon Sterling being the type of character that's going to kick up, and kick off really. I think it's just down to performances. To be honest, Dujon Sterling is not been anywhere near the sort of levels he was last year when he came in. He's been handed starts, he's been handed opportunities off the bench, and I'm struggling to think of a standout performance he's had this year. And of course, it will be difficult, as you say. He's either in the team, he's out of the team, he's in different positions. I know for a fact that the club here, Clement and Niels Coppen, they don't view him as a central midfielder, which is ironic, because that's mainly where he's been asked to play. They view him as right back. They believe he is James Tavernier's successor at right back. Whether or not he ever gets that opportunity to play there is another thing, because for better or worse, Tavernier being the captain, he plays every week. So I just think it's a rhythm thing. I think he's not been helped because he has had these wee niggly injuries at times. That's been the story of his Rangers career. I think that's maybe what's held him back last season from really cementing himself. He had these times where he would be really getting into his stride, and then would have to have not months out, but maybe 2 or 3 weeks out, and that would just sort of knock him off track.
Him again.
And I think you've had that. There's been a couple of times this season. I'm sure he missed a game a few weeks back. I'm struggling to think what one it was. Maybe it was maybe Tadis away. I can't remember. But he's missed a game this season. I just think that's maybe the frustration for Philippe Clement when he wants to use him, he wants to get him in there, and perhaps there's a wee knock that just sets him back for a week or two. So I'm sure if he can get himself back in, and he came on and he did help stabilise things there towards the end, because it was fairly, it became a bit like a basketball match at one point with the last sort of 10-15 minutes to go. Rangers seemed to have no real great control, and he did come on and just help stabilise a little bit as get them through that final sort of sticky 10 minutes. But as I was saying earlier, I don't think that's a performance that's going to convince anyone.
Hibs really looked as if they were really pushing Rangers, starting to take control in that second half. And obviously Dessers being denied with a wonder save. These kind of decisions, and you look at how Rangers have been doing. Do you think that Rangers have? Do you think Rangers have got the ability to continue these results against top teams? Obviously, going into Europe,
they need to get a level of performance. They found that level, and it was an impressive level in Sweden against Malmo. They've kind of come off the gas a little bit today. Come on, saying in terms of the travel and preparing for this game. It was the minimum amount of time. Well, he's got a bit more time now to put things in place for Lyon on Thursday. That's going to be potentially the most difficult match they've faced this season. You know, whether or not it's you know, you factor in the Old Firm game that at Celtic Park was a tough afternoon for them. This is the potential to be every bit as difficult. So what Rangers turn up? If it's today's Rangers, they've got a serious problem. If it's the Rangers that we saw against Malmo the other night, they've got a chance. And if they take a point even from that game, they're in a real good position with 4 points from the first two games. So, but it's about trying to find that level of consistency. And I think Andy's actually spot on with Diamande. Diamande needs to come back into the team. Was there any suggestion, Andy, that injury might keep him out for Thursday, or are they confident he'll be back?
We just spoke with Clement, and he's fairly comfortable that he'll be available for Thursday night. I mean, you're saying about Lyon, I agree. I mean, it will be a tough game, but I think the Rangers can also be optimistic about it if they can get to that level of performance from Thursday night, as you're saying, Keith, because Lyon aren't in any great shakes this season. I think the last time I checked, just before I came off, they were losing to, I think it's Toulouse they're playing today. They've only won one of their previous 5 league games this season. They're just above the relegation zone in France, so obviously they got a good result against Olympiacos in their Europa League opener. They won 2-0, but you know, that's a game that, you know, if Rangers, you know, we're sold out Ibrox with the noise levels up, if they can perform to those levels that we saw in Sweden, then yeah, they can fancy themselves. But you're right, it has to be Thursday's performance. It can't be today's. If they play like they did today, then you know, there's every chance they could end up in the wrong side of the result.
Of course, Rangers been back at a full capacity. Ibrox as well. How much of a difference will that make? Also having that kind of confidence in the club, having things back.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because a packed Ibrox, especially Thursday night Europa League, it's quite a phenomenal atmosphere. But you kind of get the feeling right now the fans are waiting for the players. You know, maybe it'll be different because it's Thursday night under the lights and there'll be a general feeling of excitement. That should help charge up the atmosphere a little bit. But I felt today, Andy, watching that, you know, there was a bit of moaning and groaning going on. It felt all a bit lifeless, and you're kind of thinking, well, you know, this is Rangers. They are back at Ibrox. You would expect that would bring with it a sort of a shot in the arm. But it's almost as if the fans are waiting on the performance from the players before they're getting involved. And you know, that as I said, that might shift on Thursday night simply because of the competition and the fact that it's Lyon, and that might bring its own source of energy to the occasion. But I felt it felt a bit, you know, and sometimes it's like that, Ibrox, isn't it, Andy? When it's busy, but they're not really that impressed. you can feel it starts to weigh on the players a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously European games are much different from domestic games. You only need to look at, say, Celtic Park last week for that game against Slovan Bratislava and how loud that was, and then you fast forward to the game against Falkirk, which was just as entertaining a game, but it didn't seem to have the same sort of atmosphere around about it. That's just what happens. There's a difference between domestic football and European football. But yeah, there was definitely a sense that the fans were sitting here going, right, what are you going to give us today? And when they didn't get what they were wanting, they were quick to sort of let the team know. And there was an incident just sort of down behind me there where Václav Černý sort of turns around and sort of bites back after there was a bit of a really loud grumble when he opted to pass the ball backwards when the chance was on to run at his fullback. And you know, I think that's the expectation level some of these players are going to have to sort of get used to. You know, if you don't do what the crowd want, they're going to jeer you, they're going to grumble, they're going to groan, and you know, this is what life at a big club's about. And you really have to, you know, if you play well and you go forward and you score goals, the crowd will make the noise. But there are times when, you know, if the team aren't playing well here, then the crowd are certainly quick to let them know that what they think about it. And
Clement subbed him off after that, didn't he? Was that directly because of that confrontation, Andy?
I don't think so. I think it was just, to us, I mean, we also spoke with somebody else after the game. They were trying to suggest it's maybe just a bit of tiredness in the legs, something like that. And I kind of think that you know, that might have just been the case. I think the fact he didn't want to take his ringer on was just maybe a wee bit of fatigue. I mean,
yeah.
I still don't think these players are, you know, they're fully fit. I don't think. I mean, a lot of these guys don't look like they're absolutely 100% sharp. You know, you've obviously seen that with Ibrox with Černý when he first came in. The manager was reluctant to play him from the start, and certainly the game against Dynamo Kiev. And I think you're looking at these guys, especially because of the travel. Obviously, Philippe Clement was mentioning that. As usually, you're maybe not buying that. Philippe Clement is so strict when it comes to adhering to what his sports scientists and his physios tell him. So if he says that a night's sleep, not getting a night's sleep contributes to that, then who am I to judge? But yeah, it was, it was certainly wasn't a performance that was full of life anyway. Let's put it that way.
Not having a night's sleep's never affected your performance, Andy. I can vouch for that.
You've not been reading my match reports after a night out, have you, sir?
So, moving on, obviously, moving over to the other side of the city, or other side, the team from the other side of the city, Celtic, absolutely blowing St Johnstone out of the water.
Yeah, it was a big performance. I think, Andy, we can. Do you need to crack on and get on?
Yeah, I ain't going to get my stuff written, so I'll leave you. Love you and leave you, boys.
Okay, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, Andy. I know in terms of Celtic's performance, I mean that's, we talk about Rangers hoping that they'd turned a corner the other night, but this is proof of where Celtic are at. They are just churning out a 5-star standard of performance game after game, whether it's in Europe, whether it's at home in the league, whether it's away, it's St Johnstone in the league. They really are looking like a well-oiled machine at the minute.
Playing with swagger.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to have a conversation, aren't we, about the standard that was it Ida's goal? Was that the fifth? It's just sublime. I mean, I remember Celtic scored a goal actually at McDiarmid Park a few years ago. I think it may have been Brendan's first term in charge. Swanee, you'll tell me, but it was a passing move. I'm pretty sure it was Brendan Rodgers' first stint in charge. It was
2017, 25 passes.
It was
Rabona and Musa Dembele scored.
That's exactly the one I'm thinking, Swanee.
That sounds like I'm an encyclopedia, but I only know that because I researched it to write it last night.
Well, then you've made the same comparison then, Swanee, in your own head, because that goal for me last night was as good as the one that you're just refreshing my memory of just now. It's almost impossible to stop when Celtic are playing in that rhythm.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that we're both on the same page in terms of what goal you're referring to, because I've heard you lads discuss the final goal, the sixth goal that Adam Idah scored. As far as I'm concerned, nothing could touch the second goal. That was 9 men. 9 men. The only 2 players on the team that didn't touch the ball were Dyson Maeda and Arne Engels. Started on their own goal line from the goalkeeper. 11 passes, Paulo Bernardo scores. It was an unbelievable goal. If ever there was a Brendan Rodgers goal, that was it.
That was a great goal, but I loved the interchange.
We love the impishness of the sixth goal. You know, the dink for Luke McCowan, the run, the back flick from Alec Bay, and actually Idah does lovely. Just give the keeper the eyes and knock it the other way. He actually gave the keeper the eyes the way you're giving the light switch the eyes now, Keith. Just like, just the way you dipped your shoulder there in the direction of the beam. Yeah, I mean, listen, you look at that and it's all the panache and it's all the tricks and flicks at that stage of the game is on the eye, it's Harlem Globetrotter stuff. But I actually thought the second goal is that's just what it's all about. That's what
is this, Swanee, is this as good, and you watch a lot of Celtic, is this as good as they were in Brendan's first season in the job? Are they hitting similar standards? Because for me, I think they are. And I also go as far as to say I think he's got a stronger squad. So the first 11s are comparable. The style of football is comparable. But this version 2.0 is stronger in terms of the squad.
I would agree with that. I think what he's able to bring off the bench now compared to back then.
Quality with quality, I think.
Yeah, it's just I mean, it'd be a great game between the two of them, I have to say. But yeah, listen, it's always difficult to compare eras and different players and different characters, but they're certainly as exhilarating as they were back then. Last night was just, listen, you don't get many neutrals in Scottish football. Anybody who's watching it will want someone to win. But if you could happen to be a neutral somehow, you couldn't have failed to have loved that last night. It was just fabulous to watch.
Yeah.
Just some of the stuff was just wonderful. The one-touch stuff, the movement, the constant harassing, the tempo in their football. They do things quickly and they do it accurately. I mean, even the third goal that Kyogo scores with the header. There's a bit of trickery in there.
Superb.
Kuhn's got a back heel. Then he does a roll with his feet. He plays it. One touch from Maida. First time cross from Greg Taylor. I mean, it's just so quick. St Johnstone defenders and midfield players can't readjust their positions. And he runs from offside back to onside and then runs back in behind the defender to score the header. It's just lethal. It's lethal.
It's the intensity as well, Swanee, that's so impressive. Because once they've got one goal, once they get two, they want the four, they want the fifth, they want the sixth. They're ferocious in the way that they go about it. And again, I know that you've mentioned him a few times, singled him out for praise. He's not perhaps my favourite in terms of ability level, but Jackson Maida, the work rate of the guy is phenomenal. I mean, he was chasing back 80 yards to make a tackle. I think the Celtic were 6 after the 6
minutes, 6-0. He ran back 60 yards, and Brendan Rodgers was on the touchline applauding. And
that's phenomenal
after the game. Yeah, the one thing I will say about Maida is, and I have been one of the ones. To me, he was a bit of an inconsistent cult hero for the first couple of years. You know, he would get to, the amount of times he would waste balls and shank balls, brilliantly to get into the areas and then just not deliver. This season, his quality in the final third has been terrific. I mean, the goal he scored last night, it was chopped off.
That was a great strike.
And a half volley. I mean, it was beautifully controlled and hit. The movement and the header for his goal's fantastic. He's actually, his all-round game. I mean, you're talking about a guy now that scored in the Champions League at a World Cup finals and is doing it regularly. I mean, the guy's and has that appetite and that hunger and that Brendan Rodgers refers to it a lot, but his team spark off that. If you're a player in that team and you're looking at a guy like that and you're thinking, well, he's doing it. I mean, I think a lot of Celtic fans now, I don't think it's fair to say that the lad didn't have it. It was maybe just down to his fitness issues. But Celtic fans are seeing Nicholas Kuhn do that now when he wasn't doing it last season.
Exactly right.
He's taking the lead off Jackson Maida now. That might be a bit unfair on him. We were at a press conference a couple of weeks ago and we asked Nicholas Kuhn this and he said, well, no, I've always had it in my game. I wasn't up to speed last season is what I wanted to be. So maybe that is being unfair. But there is no doubt he's looking across the pitch and thinking, well, I better try and match that. Or simply, I won't be in the team.
That's right. That's the template. That's the template over there. And if he's doing that in that wing, I better be sure that I'm putting in the same amount of effort on the other one. I absolutely couldn't agree with you more. But as you find that,
it's the footballers as well, Keith. It's not just the white guys; it's the actual footballers in there. Bernardo's and Engels. Their thirst for work is incredible. What they get through. And listen. Everybody says it, that the best teams always work the hardest. That's what they say. That's what they used to say about the great Barcelona team, wasn't it? With Messi and all that. That they were insatiable when they didn't have the ball to get it back. And Celtic are like that. I'm sorry, but I'm not comparing them with that Barcelona team before we get 9 million emails. But what I'm saying is just their appetite, when they're winning games and they're in control of games. It would be really easy for... And listen, this was something I think... Whether Brendan Rodgers would wish to refute this or not, I don't know. But there was times in that first period when they could take the sting out of games. In his first spell, and they would slow it right down and just keep the ball and just knacker the other team out and just get through the game. They would pick them off and score more goals. But this is different. What happened? Well, to me, this is different. That the way they went about that last night is, and the way they've gone about it all season, just want more and more and more. It just doesn't. And I think that comes back to both your points about the bench. You get guys coming on now, he does thinking, I better do something here. James Forrest thinking, I better do something. Rio Hatate's thinking, am I going to play in Dortmund the way Bernardo's playing here? I better do something. Everybody's wanting to do something when they get on the pitch.
Do you know what it's funny though? You're like, so you know what Brendan was like first time round. You're absolutely right. And I think, Celtic fans said themselves that towards the end, they weren't being entertained. And which is why they kind of fell in love when Ange Postecoglou came in the door and it was this high intensity, 100 mile an hour, we never stop mantra. It almost feels as if this is a union of the two, as if Brendan Rodgers has welded his kind of philosophy onto Ange Postecoglou's high intensity, and they've created this hybrid thing which is almost like an amalgamation of the two approaches. It looks unstoppable.
They can play keep ball at 200 miles an hour. That's basically what it is. It's phenomenal. They can actually play keep ball and move it at speed that makes your eyes blurry.
Yeah.
That's some That's some skill.
Which was not great timing for St Johnstone then to run into them at the weekend, because obviously that's a club that's got some big issues, and a wee bit of breaking news shortly before we come on this afternoon is that they look as if they've failed again. The owner Adam Webb seemed to be far down the line with appointing Tiernan Lynch from Larne, and that appears to have collapsed at 11th hour, just as the move for Scott Brown collapsed at 11th hour when Adam Webb got involved. And I believe that Peter leaving at Aberdeen wasn't particularly impressed. That's actually becoming a bit of a horrible pattern, especially on the weekend when your side has absolutely been demolished on its own pitch. What's your reading of that, Swanee?
Yeah, it's I mean, we don't know inside the negotiations, but when you now have three guys who have spoken to the club and aren't attracted by a job in the top flight, would concern me if I was a St Johnstone fan. Mm-hmm. We don't know the ins and outs of contract details and what's on offer. That's private business for guys themselves. But certainly the vibe that's coming out of Ireland as it was Tiernan Lynch's package that's what it broke down on. Personal terms seems to be the chart there, so unconfirmed, of course, but that seems to be it. And if that's the case, you really want to be in a position where you can be, guys should be falling over themselves to take jobs in the Premier League.
Well, I can guarantee you this: it wasn't personal terms that was the reason behind Scott Brown removing himself from the conversation.
Oh, I don't know. That's concerning. If you then have 2 or 3 different reasons why guys aren't taking the job, you'd be worried about that as a St Johnstone fan, I have to say.
Well, I'm writing about that in my column tomorrow, Swanee. I think it is an issue, and it's also I felt it was interesting that Scott Brown made a phone call to Brendan Rodgers as soon as he'd kind of finished his discussions with Adam Webb. First thing he did was go and ask his mentor for a bit of advice. If Scott Brown believed that he was being put in a situation whereby dictated to or marginalised or told to conform to a certain style and manage a certain way that the owner wants, then I can imagine that Brendan Rodgers would have been a really easy bit of advice for Brendan Rodgers. He told him to run a mile, because his view, Brendan Rodgers has said previously, a manager's at his most powerful in the minutes, days, hours before he actually puts pen to paper, because that's when the club is pushing for you. That's when they're going to go. And if Scott Brown was somehow left kind of feeling his blood run cold in that meeting before he's actually sat down with a contract on the table, that to me is a major red flag. And I'd be concerned from the St Johnstone perspective now that it's happened on 3 occasions over the course of 48, 72 hours. I think that actually points to a club that's got a big problem. And if it wasn't for the kind of start that Hearts have made to this season, Kilmarnock are also still waiting on their first win. But St Johnstone, it looks to me already as if this is going to be a very long season for them.
Yeah, of course. And obviously with St Johnstone, looking at Celtic now, fantastic win against St Johnstone at McDiarmid Park. But they're going on to something a bit bigger, of course, going to take Dortmund on.
Yeah.
Dortmund coming back from behind, winning 4-2 against Bochum.
Yeah, I keep hearing us Dortmund are on a state. Same way Andy's just said Leon are on a state. I'll reserve judgment to see what sort of state they look in when Celtic run out there. I think it's going to be a long night. Even if Dortmund aren't at their best, they'll still be a very, very competent, dangerous outfit. If Celtic could get a point on the road, I mean, that would just cap off what's been an absolutely tremendous start to the campaign. But that might be a big ask. It might be a big ask.
Of course.
I think you look at the 3 points Celtic got in their opening night, and that was a brilliant 3 points to put in the bank in terms of the kind of home games in this competition. There is an opportunity here for Celtic. I'm not entirely sure that by the time they get back to Celtic Park after going on the road to Dortmund and Atalanta, I'm not entirely sure that we'll have anything else to back up the initial 3 points. They might be stuck in 3 points from 9. But you never know. I mean, they are hitting levels now where if they go and perform to their optimum level against Dortmund, they could well give them a game. They could well cause a real surprise. We saw Rangers go there and get a phenomenal result a couple of years ago. You know, this Celtic side might be capable of that. But right now, Swanee, I don't know about you, but I'd bite your hand off for a point.
I think everyone would. Keith, I look at the Celtic team just now, going into that game in Dortmund, and I look at the front six and think, and you know, even when it's changed around, when they make the changes, whoever it is, whether it's Bernardo or Hatate and whoever they play up front, you'd imagine it'll be Kyogo, but even when they make the changes during the game, I think the front six are well capable of making chances and scoring goals. Celtic's biggest problem in the Champions League, both at home and away from home, has been keeping out their own net. That is going to be the acid test. Celtic will make chances in Dortmund. I've no doubt about that. With the pace of their play, the pace and the tempo that they play at, they'll make chances against any team. They made chances against Atletico Madrid last year and Real Madrid the year before. That's under Postecoglou. That to me isn't the issue. The issue is they're going to have to defend properly. Now, you're never in any Champions League game, especially against a team of Dortmund's quality, going to get through a 90 minutes without giving up 2 or 3 chances. It just happens. It doesn't matter how well you defend. You need a bit of luck. You have to hope that the Dortmund guys snatch them when they get them, or, you know, Kasper Schmeichel has a wild day or whatever. But you've got to limit the chances and just hope that they don't take them when they get them, because there's no way they're going to keep them away from your goal, you know, and not give them a sniff. That's not going to happen. So you need a wee bit of luck. But I have no doubt that if they can defend properly, concentrate, don't give easy goals, is a phrase that gets levelled at Celtic time after time when they go away in Europe. They give away bad goals. And that is the one thing for all the attacking football, for all the speed, all the pace, all the panache. If you give goals away, it's not, you're done.
I tell you what, they need Cameron Carter-Vickers back then. They need his big toe to get right on the men, don't they, over the next couple of days? Because, you know, he's the rock.
Yeah, doesn't sound great, I have to say.
But of course, with
last night, you know, it didn't sound great. You never know. He might make a fast recovery. I actually thought Austin Trusty played well in Perth. Now, in fairness, he wasn't up against a lot.
He's not playing against Borussia Dortmund.
He wasn't playing against Borussia Dortmund, but he looked quick. He looked as though he had a bit of power about him. So, you know, I think there is a quality player to bring in. But of course, Cameron Carter-Vickers is the stalwart of the back line. And obviously Celtic are going to be better with them. I'll actually be fascinated down the line how this goes. If Trusty continues to develop, because it's becoming very, very difficult to contemplate dropping Liam Scales. But you know, Trusty's naturally left-sided as well. And when Carter-Vickers comes back, is that the pairing? You would think Liam Scales is going to have a lean patch before Trusty gets into the team, because at the moment. But again, this is another acid test for Liam Scales as well. You know, we'll see. He's going to be up against some quality front players, and that's, you know, you're right, Keith. What you've been saying, he's clearly developed and come on again this season. But this is another
big huge test for him.
Yeah. But I think the one other thing I would say is, I think for as much as the Celtic fans love Joe Hart, I think having Kasper Schmeichel is a massive thing on Tuesday night. The guy is so calm. There are situations away in Europe. I can remember a previous trip to Germany and Leipzig when Celtic got it back to 1-1. And Joe Hart just passed the ball out straight to the Leipzig striker who made a goal within 2 minutes of Celtic equalising or something like that. Joe Hart could inspire a wee bit of, as great as he was, there was always a wee bit of, sometimes when he had the ball at his feet, you can see Kasper Schmeichel just being ice cold. And in that first 15, 20 minutes, Celtic might need that just to take a bit of sting out of the game. So
It's incredible, Swanee, isn't it? You had Joe Hart. Joe Hart was an absolute hero with the fans, great performer and all that. They've actually managed to upgrade the goalkeeper. and very few people would have thought that would happen when Joe Hart first revealed that he was going to be, you know, hanging his gloves up at the end of the season. It is incredible. That was a great bit of business.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting. St Johnstone barely saw Celtic's goal last night. Kasper Schmeichel had a shot to do in the second half. He saved it. And it's like, but it was a snapshot right down low at his left-hand post. He saved it. And he literally could have read the daily record for the other 89 minutes. But live and he was switched on. He's not going to get a night like that on Tuesday, that's for certain.
No.
Of course, Celtic fans in the comments, Ian McElraith, nothing to fear. And if we get something out of the game, the feel-good factor increases tenfold. Do you think teams like Dortmund, a lot of the criticism that goes towards Scottish teams in Europe is when they're playing the league, You know, they're not playing a higher standard, or who their opposition is always brought into case. However, I think the style that Celtic won that game, do you think that has Dortmund thinking?
And Dortmund will be doing their homework, I've no doubt about it. Will they be quaking in their boots about taking on Scotland's champions? I wouldn't have thought so. But they should have a healthy respect for Celtic. I'm sure they will do.
I think it's like Celtic, Slovan, Bratislava, Keith. I think Dortmund and the Dortmund fans will look at Celtic the way Celtic looked at Slovan Bratislava.
Mm-hmm.
You know, plenty of respect for them. But if we turn up and play a game, we should win this. Or could and probably will win this if we turn up and play as we can. I think that's how Celtic looked at Slovan Bratislava, judging by the way they played. There was a confidence in their play. I think Dortmund will be the same. I think as Champions League finalists, they've earned the right to think that way. Yeah, I think they should be belittled if Borussia Dortmund feel confident about beating them, so they should.
But, you know, I think the overall point that they will be looking at Celtic style of play. This isn't just a side that's, you know, scrapping their way to wins back in the Scottish Domestic League. There's a style, there's a tempo which is impressive about what Celtic are doing. And Dortmund will know that. Dortmund will know that they're going to have a game. But I think you're right, Swanee. I think the Germans are going to believe in they're at home and 3 points is a must.
They'll also know that Celtic have got an elite manager.
Yeah,
no Brendan Rodgers, all right. No.
Mm-hmm.
For all these, you know, Champions League figures and record might not be fantastic, they'll still know all about him and know he's well capable of putting a team together.
And as we've seen, there's always the possibility of a wee wonder career under road down the Europa League for a Scottish team. Another team having an absolute storm at the moment is Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Fairland's Aberdeen, 100% record.
Yeah, Swanee keeps downplaying them.
Well, and we keep saying we'll keep looking for the next games, and they keep answering the questions. If they keep answering the questions, they will be eventually considered as the real deal. And right now, I've said it time and again, they're doing fabulously well. And I think the great thing from Dens Park yesterday was the way they won the game, because I think Jimmy Tillane was quite open about the fact that Dundee fully deserved something. I don't know if he went as far as to say that they deserved to win, but he certainly said they deserved something. I think I heard Tony Dock when I was on the way back from Perth last night. I heard an interview with Tony Dock where he said that Jimmy Tillane kind of said to him, the better team, you know, you guys were the better team. So the fact that Aberdeen found a way to dig that out, that's not the first time this season. They dug out a 50-50 tricky game up in Dingwall when they scored in the last minute through Kevin Nisbet. Listen, we said 3 weeks ago what a signing Kevin Nisbet would be, Keith. When you're desperately trying to fill in for Bojan Majowski and cover that loss. And Papi Gay's been great. You know, Gay's not around yesterday. And Kevin Nisbet comes up with a goal again. And he to me, is on his way back to the Scotland squad. We were actually talking about Scotland strikers last week, and we kind of forgot about Kevin Nisbet when we were having a conversation about Shea Adams, and obviously discussing Lawrence Shankland and Lyndon Dykes, and you kind of forget that, you know, Kevin Nisbet was around at the last Euros, before the one in the summer, obviously, and he was a big part of Clark's setup at one point. So I've got no doubt Kevin Nisbet, if he maintains, has to be back in. But anyway, back to Aberdeen, continually proving themselves, continually doing what we've asked them to do, keep showing it, and as long as they do that, then they will be considered the real deal. And this game that's coming up at Celtic Park in the middle of next month is going to be an absolute cracker if they can. I
can't wait for that, because that's when we're going to get the real measure, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys might be able to correct me. I think the game next weekend is Hearts at home after Hearts come back from Minsk. I think I've got that right.
Yeah,
so
I think you're right.
That looks like, providing Celtic don't slip in Dingwall, 7 games, 21 points each. International break, 2 weeks build up to Celtic Aberdeen at Celtic Park. It's going to be an absolute Now, to be honest, you don't want to downplay Aberdeen. You would probably rather for the neutral that game was at Pittodrie to give them more of a check. If Celtic play like they did against St Johnstone, you would imagine them crush Aberdeen. I was trying to pick my words carefully there, but Celtic will crush anybody if they play that way. I'm afraid they're just on a different level. But it'd be fabulous if we could get a top of the table, 21 points each, head to head. That'd be great. Yeah,
but I mean, the thing is, what has to give Aberdeen encouragement is, as you said, Swanee, that's not them at their best yesterday.
No,
if you're continuing to win games even when you're not playing at your best, well, that is a team that's, you know, going to hang around at the top end of the table over the course and distance if they can continue to do that. And there's a lot of ifs about it, but, you know, listen, his results speak for themselves. This has been an absolutely storming start to the season for Aberdeen. And, you know, as we've said previously, Swanee, it just gives a shot in the arm to the league in general when your bigger clubs are really punching their weight.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Unfortunately, it just seems to be we can't get them all walking up the street at the same time. Aberdeen are absolutely flying without dropping a point, and Hearts have barely got a point.
Hearts are sitting at the bottom of the table.
I mean, and you've got your Hibs languishing down there as well. I mean, at some point we may all get all the big city clubs together. But you should say hats off to the Dundee clubs while we're saying this, by the way. Dundee performed excellently by all accounts against Aberdeen yesterday, and although Kilmarnock are probably kicking themselves at being 3-1 up, that was a great point for Dundee United at 3-1 down yesterday, and they're continuing to do well. So can't forget Dundee when you're discussing the big city clubs. But yeah, Aberdeen have been apart from Celtic's football, Aberdeen have been the highlight of the season with the results.
Yeah, of course. Do you think? I know in Scottish football we look at it. You look at a good team that's maybe not part of the old firm. You think, let's see them in February. Let's see how they're going after Christmas.
Angus, I agree with that, and I stand by that. I've said it week after week after week, and I know I'll probably be getting slaughtered for it up north. But that's it. Let's see where they are in the middle of November. Let's see where they are at the end of October when they've played Celtic and Rangers. Go and win one of those games. Go and show us you're the real deal. Go and win one of those games. Go and get to the cup final. Go and win the cup final.
I think a few Aberdeen fans will be agreeing with you as well. They want to see this team perform to that level and compete for real. Do you
I think
mean?
Aberdeen fans are just totally buying into this right now, and so they should do.
Yeah,
so they should do. Enjoy it because they've gone through a kind of lean period, a lot of upheaval, changed managers. I think they get tired of Derek McInnes, and the mood was that they wanted to change. I disagreed with that at the time. I kind of warned that you need to be careful what you wish for, and they've had this problem now of trying to find a guy that can get them anywhere near the levels that Derek McInnes had them operating at. I think they've got the guy. And I'm sure the Aberdeen fans are delighted about it because it's what they were crying out for. It's high energy, it's exciting, it's front foot, and it's yielding incredible run of results just now. So listen, I hope the Aberdeen fans are well, I guess I know that they are. They're just buying into it. They're enjoying it. They're on a magic carpet ride at the minute, and they won't want it to come to a stop.
I should say I was slightly tongue in cheek there. Obviously, if you Aberdeen fans, I think you're happy to do it. You need to do things step by step. If Aberdeen can do what they're doing and deal with the rest, same way that Hearts did last year, I think the Aberdeen fans will probably accept. Okay, maybe not quite at Celtic, certainly not at Celtic, but not at Rangers. We'll maybe get the odd result, but you're probably not going to stand toe to toe over 8 games against the 2 Glasgow teams this year. But it's small steps.
But as long as they're on the up,
yeah, deal with the rest comfortably. The way they're doing it, some nice performances, look good. Give the old firm a couple of bloody noses now and again without thinking you're going to take your share of the points over the 4 games against them. Give them some bloody noses, have some great nights, but deal with the rest. Cement yourself as the 3rd best this season. Then next season, when Tilleen's in the season, go and kick on and see if you really can mount a lasting challenge. So they should be allowed to walk before they can run.
And finally, just before we top this off, we'll leave it off with a wee question. Of course, you've got 2 wonder goals in 2 days. Obviously, Tom Lawrence today. Both of them interfered by VAR. Tom Lawrence and Adam Ida. Which goal are you taking, Swanee?
Swanee preferred
I told you, none of the 2 of them. None of the 2 of them. If you've got your wrong goal, none of the 2 of them. Paulo Bernardo's goal, the second goal for Celtic on Saturday night.
Oh, I disagree with Swanee, but I shouldn't because he's right, in terms of that. That was a brilliant goal, and it is a Brendan Rodgers goal. But I just loved the interplay for Ida's goal. I thought that was superb. Tom Lawrence was a hell of a strike. But VAR kind of ruined it. The ball would hit the back of the net, and Tom Lawrence was kind of shrugging his shoulders and holding his head. Thought it didn't stand, but that doesn't take away from the technique. It was a brilliant hit, really good goal. But I just love the sort of impish stuff that went on in the build up to Ida's one the other night. I love to see that stuff. So that's my pick of the weekend.
I totally agree with you. I think just see when I can see a goal that looks like my wee brother scored it in FIFA. I'm like, wow, you know, really, really impressive stuff. Brendan Rodgers, man, and of course that kind of nicely rounds us off. Gents, thank you so much, Craig, and of course Keith. So guys, thank you very much for joining us, and of course keep your comments coming in and join us tomorrow for Hotline Live. Thank you very much, guys.
Brilliant. Cheers, Swanee.
All the best. Bye now.